have been claiming for, well, in some cases for centuries. This is the Topkapi manuscript. It's there in Istanbul. According to Altı Kılıç and Ihsanolu, this is a mid-8th century manuscript, not a mid-7th century. So it's about anywhere from 60 to 100 years after Uthman. It's not from the 7th century. What's more, it's not complete. It has 2,270 manuscript variants. That means words or phrases in this manuscript that do not agree with the Cairene text that Shabir just referred to, the 1924 Cairene text. So you've got a problem there. This cannot be Uthmanic. It's from the wrong century. It's much too late. Altı Kılıç also looked at the Sana manuscript. Now, the Sana manuscript has been really exciting because it's just been discovered recently, and there have been enormous amount of interest that has been applied to it. This manuscript here, there are a number of folios, and some are written by different hands. This one they date would be the earliest manuscript they would date. And they would say that the underscript, now what am I saying here? The palimpsest. If you look carefully, I don't know if you can see from where you are, but there is a writing underneath the overscript. There's an underscript, an inferior text, and an overscript, which is the superior text. The inferior texts, they would have dated to the last 2 decades of the 7th century. That's the time of Abd al-Malik, the caliph, who ruled from 685 to 705. The superior text, the one that you can read, that is dated from the early 8th century, is what they were saying. But they're claiming very clearly that this also has manuscript variants. The Husseini, they would put it's known as the Husseini manuscript, which is there in Cairo. It is a majuscule. It uses much larger prints. It is written on a completely different style, and it is dated to the mid-8th century. Dorosh actually puts it back to the 9th century. So this cannot be 7th century. Dr. François Dorosh is the man that is responsible for most of the dating of the Petropolitanists. Let me just say something about François Dorosh. I know an awful lot of Muslims do not like him because he's a Westerner. By the fact that he's French, they don't like him they like him even worse. Nothing against the French. But let me just say what your scholar, your supervisor, Dr. Walid Saleh, says about François Dorosh. This is the man you got your doctorate from. He says, François Dorosh is now the giant jar whose handles we, the not-so-tall, are all trying to reach. If you are going to revise the outline of early Islamic history, you had better fit your story into the timeline supplied now by Dorosh, for the manuscripts brought to light by Dorosh are not easily dismissed. The work of Dorosh is such that it has changed the manner of doing Quranic studies by making the studies of codices the center of our research on the Quran. Dorosh has brought Quranic studies to a level never before seen in Anglo-American scholarship. Now, you may not like that quote, but then you're going to have to deal with your own supervisor. I'll let you talk to him later on today. What has he said and what does he know now about this manuscript, these set of manuscripts? He's saying that they are come from the 3rd quarter of the 1st century, so you're talking about the early to mid-8th century. They are written by 5 different copyists. They do not completely correspond to its state when it was completed. There were corrections that were made later on. When comparing with the Cairo edition, the 1924 edition, they have many words turn out to be different in different way. They're written in a scriptodefective. The manuscript disagrees with the Cairo canonical system in 93 places. Later hands modified this verse markers through erasures and additions. It looked like they put these manuscripts together because they needed a quick production of the Quran. That was his conclusion. Then when we get to Mat al-Quran that you're talking about, that you're referring to, that is exactly the same as our 1924 edition. It only goes up to Surah 43. I don't know if you knew that. There's 114 surahs in the Quran. It's not in, it only contains 53% of the Quran. So how could it be exactly the same as our Quran? It has erasures. It has corrections. We'll talk more about that later. The Samarkand, and then the one that you claim is exactly like our Quran today. This one gets off the worse. This one also only goes up to Surah 43. It's not complete. What's more, it's full of errors. Errors were made not by the scribe, namely they existed in the original text. It is neither one of the Caliph Uthman's copies. It is dated to the, in his case, mid-8th century, not even the early 8th century. And there are 6 reasons why there are problems with it. It has no discipline of spelling. It has different ways of writing the same word. There are scribal mistakes, copyist mistakes, written by a scribe who had no writing experience, and later added signs after verses. The Tashkent Musaf was neither the Imam Musaf of Caliph Uthman was reading, nor was it those when he was martyred, nor any of the Musaf that he sent to various centers, nor even a copy that was kept in Medina for the benefit of the people. 4,000 to 172 ayats it contains, or really almost 2/3 of the Tashkent Musaf has now been lost. So, we're going to just show you one after another. When we look at the palimpsest, as I mentioned earlier, the underscript, probably the best work that's been done on the palimpsest coming out of Sana. If I can put up a picture of it, here it is right here. You can see the underscript. Those of you who are at the front benches can see it. God bless you for coming to the front. When you look at the underscript, you will see it does not agree with the overscript. When they put it under ultraviolet light, they have now found that it's actually two different scripts, showing that there's an evolution between the last 2 decades of the 7th century and the first 2 decades of the 8th century. There's an evolution in those 10 to 20 years. According to Sadeghi and Gudarzi, it is clearly this falls outside of the standard type text and is from a different textual edition completely. Dr. Elizabeth Quinn, who's doing probably the standard work and probably doing the most original work on the palimpsest, her conclusion, it's a completely different Quran, not the Quran that we have today. Bonham and Fogg's palimpsest. When you look at Bonham and Fogg's palimpsest, you can find it has omissions, different words, word sequences, orthographical variants, reading errors, and corrections. Certainly, this is not a complete text. So every one that we've looked at, the 6 major manuscripts, every one of them so far has been found to be fraudulent.